DrivinIvanKatz here at Pohick Bay Regional Park Disc Golf Course, and today I'm going to play around and give you some tips and tutorials. I'll talk about hyzer and hyzer, how weight affects the discs, and also certain discs that I'm throwing and why I throw them, and I'm going to get you through this tight technical course. So let's get started. Number one, 216 feet. And a couple of problem trees along the way, but overall pretty open. So this flippy wraith here made for an interesting shot. I actually got it to turn over and roll because of its understability and because of its flippiness. Those are synonymous. I'll talk more about that in a moment when I wrap up the hole. First, let me make the putt. Well, my crank SS got me pretty close to the basket, probably about a 22-foot putt or so, maybe 25. Nice drive with the mid-range Cobra, probably about 25, 27 feet away from the basket. Okay, so wrapping up number one, I threw 3 different shots. Why? Well, because my extremely light and flippy, understable wraith was a roller shot, and my crank SS was overstable, and my Cobra, the mid-range, is pretty stable to maybe a hair understable for me. Now, what does that mean? Well, my power level might be different than your power level. So for me, when I throw this crank SS, for me, it is a hair overstable. Now, if you have more power, you might be able to turn this disc over more power than me. So when I throw it, it turns up and then fades back to the right. If you have a lot of power, then you can probably get this crank SS to turn over and S out. And I can get it to S out too. In this case, it really depends on how much hyzer I put on it, or sometimes even anhyzer. I made an ace like this with anhyzer where I got the disc to S around this way and through the tree at Bluemont. Check out that one. That's a pretty cool shot elsewhere on YouTube. But that just goes to show you, you can use these discs in many different ways. And for the wraith that I started out with, it's flippy. That means it's understable. I can throw it like this and it's going to go ahead and turn over. And sometimes what I do, like right here in this example, I can actually get this to turn over and then roll, and that can give you a lot of extra distance, especially if you're throwing something with a wide open field or a very long hole. You can get a lot of extra distance like that. There's many different ways to throw a roller. I have a whole video on the roller. With an overstable disc like this one, I just give it a lot of anhyzer and a lot of snap and let it catch and roll. And that's one way to do it. But with a very understable disc, you can get it to flip over and then roll. So that's what I did here on number one. Now, in terms of weight, also that affects stability. The lighter the disc, the more understable it should be, which means if you had a very light crank SS, the ones I have 2, and they're pretty heavy. But maybe if you had a lighter one, they would be more flippy, more understable. So something to think about when you are picking out your discs. Also, you want to pick out a disc. You see the fall colors behind me. You want to pick out bright discs that show up, blues, you know, colors that aren't in nature. That's a tip too. But weight is very important. So you'll see that the longest disc flights were thrown many times over 1,000 feet with 130, 137, somewhere in there. Those are extremely light and the wind can really carry those discs, so that's an advantage. Also, if you have a weaker arm, I know older players that prefer lighter discs. So you have to use what works for you. Go out into a field and try these discs. If you're finding that you have a disc and you throw it and it just turns off to the right, or if you're right hand backhand and you throw the disc and it just turns off that way, well, there's a couple things you can try. Number one, you can try a lower speed disc. That's the first number in the disc. I believe the Crank SS is like a 12, 13 right in there. And so it requires a lot of power to throw it. Well, if you take the number down and go to a mid-range like this Cobra here, well, it's much, much easier to throw. Also, if you decrease the weight. Something you have to realize is a lot of the distance that you're going to get has to do with the speed of release from your arm. That's why you see a lot of people go ahead, if they're right hand backhand, they actually spin their whole body and get that rotation, and they do that X step to move up and get a lot of forward motion. If you could just throw with 1 mile an hour more, that's about 7 feet. So if you throw at 40 miles an hour and you can throw at 41, you'll get an extra 7 feet. If you throw at 5 miles more an hour, you get 35 extra feet. So the speed of release is very important. But again, you want to be in control. So a control driver or a mid-range might be something you want to look into. And then the control drivers, 8, 9 in those areas, 10, and then onto the fairway drivers, 10, 11, that sort of thing. So vary the speed, vary the weight, and find something that works for you. Go into a field and throw these discs. And again, if you see me throwing with hyzer for my right hand forehand, and the way you want to throw that shot is actually like this for right hand backhand. If you see me throwing with anhyzer, then that is anhyzer for the right hand backhand, and for the forehand it's up like this. Okay, 3 discs, 3 ways to get there, and 3 birdies. On to the next one. Number 2, tucked back into the trees there. A lot of trouble trees along the way. Well, that is 182 feet away. Well, this mid-range truth is new to my bag, brand new, not broken in, so it's a bit overstable, but I was able to use it well, get me close enough for about a 20-foot putt, maybe 18. Okay, so wrapping up number 2 here, the truth, new to my bag. It's a mid-range. You can play a whole course with a disc like this one. I'm always talking about my Cobra. I love my Cobra. This one I'm getting used to. It's overstable, but it certainly gave me the opportunity to get very close and really just like a 15-foot putt in. Now, overstable means for me that it tends to turn over less and fade off this way more. But those tendencies will change. As I said, this is brand new. As you hit trees, as you play with this, it'll break in, get more stable. That's what happens to these discs. So keep playing with them and try them out. Hit trees with them and they'll actually start maybe to behave even better for you. So the truth can be a putter, can be an approach, mid-range, very versatile disc, and I used it to my advantage here to get a birdie on 2. On to the next one. Number 3 is tricky. Only 170 or 192 feet. I'm not sure what pin position it's in, but you have this tree right here that's a mandatory. That means you have to go on this side of it. So you have to go all the way on the outside and really curve around dogleg left here. It's a tough path from the tee right here. Well, this shot with the Crank SS was okay. Still probably just outside of the circle. The circle is 10 meters, 33 feet. Outside of that you can jump putt. So I'm pretty close to the line here. But wow, really tough getting around that mandatory tree. And it's definitely tough for a forehand flicker. But the Crank SS got me around, and at least I can see it for a putt. Okay, wrapping up number 3 here through the Crank SS with some serious anhyzer to get it to curve around left. Now this shot is definitely easier for you right-hand, backhand players, but there's always a shot for something. I favor my forehand flick for pretty much all of my drives, so got to figure out a way to work out tough ones like that. And the Crank SS is an overstable disc, which means it has a tendency to fade off this way, but I put a lot of anhyzer on it to get it to curve around that tree. Really tough there with all the trees and branches and leaves, but made it work out for the birdie with the overstable Truth, which as you see there can be used as a putter. Kind of curves around for me. Throw it up in the air off this way and let it fade into the basket. So there you have it, on to the next one. Number 4 has a tight fairway, 161 feet, but I like this shot. Certainly a good one for the forehand flick. Let's see what happens. Well, the Valkyrie is really a great all-around disc. Got me down here very nicely and probably about 12 feet away from the basket. Okay, wrapping up number 4 with the Valkyrie. It's a great all-around disc. You can throw it and give it just any little bit of input and it responds. You can make it turn left like on the last one. This would have actually been a very good disc to throw there with some anhyzer, get it to turn around left. Throw it maybe with a little hyzer, let it flip up a bit and just go straight, fade off to the right. The Valkyrie is a great disc. I have an entire video on this disc. Check it out elsewhere on YouTube, but it worked very well for me, getting me close to the basket and even letting me put it in fairly easy too from about 12 feet. Number 5, 159 feet. Some definitely trouble trees on the way. You're going to have to go around these somehow, but looks like a fun challenge. Lucky bounce. Okay, wrapping up number 5 here. There you go, the putt with the Cobra. Got lucky with my mid-range Cobra here. Hit off a tree and landed right underneath the basket. I'd rather be lucky than good any day, certainly. But today this Cobra worked very well for me here on number 5. It's a really versatile disc, and that tree saved me from about a 20-foot putt. On to the next one. Number 6, just 155 feet. But they've got the basket tucked back in there, so it's tough. You got to go through those trees at the end. Nice drive through the fairway with my Crank SS. Actually went past the basket, and this is my new Crank SS. It's nice to have an extra one of a disc that's one of your favorites, so that's what I did with this Crank SS. And this one tends to be pretty stable, maybe a hair overstable, but I really love its flight pattern. Okay, wrapping up number 6, my new backup Crank SS. Good to have a backup of one of your favorite discs in your bag, like I said earlier. And then my 86 putter. Number 7, another dog leg left and 207 feet, but this time a much wider fairway. Well, number 7, funny story here. I couldn't find my disc, and I looked all over for it, made it around. I didn't hear any trees or anything. And look, I found it. Right under the basket, hiding. So there you go. A nice, easy birdie with the Valkyrie. It's good to be as close to the basket as possible, because even if you're a good putter, everybody can screw up when they're putting. So your drives and your approach shots are very important. So find discs that get you there. And for me, this Valkyrie, this one is very tough for a forehand flicker because it's a dog leg left. But again, I just gave it a lot of anhyzer and good power, good flick, and you got to sell it. If you don't snap your wrist, then the disc, even if you throw it up like this, it's still going to fade off to the right. So you got to, what I call, sell it with a good snap, good follow through. Excellent result here on 7. Number 8 is short, just 156 feet, but you got to get through these trees kind of dog leg left, so it's not easy. The Beast did a nice job of getting me around that left-handed dog leg. Now just a 15-foot putt. Okay, so this is a new Beast for me. I have a very broken-in Beast, but they tend to flip over for me and be actually understable. This one is probably medium weight, and it's definitely, I'd say, more stable, but I was able to go ahead and use its understable tendencies to get it to curve around left and set me up for a nice easy birdie in. So the Beast, a great disc all around, absolutely. Number 9 is a good far long way across the field here, 282 feet, and there's these trees that'll be sort of on your right hand side from the other side, and then all these trees blocking the basket, so there's not a lot of room to get at the basket, even if you can throw 282 feet. Well, my Halo Air parked it right at the basket. Beautiful shot. Okay, wrapping up number 9 with the Halo Air. This is a great disc. I can throw it with anhyzer and let it kind of straighten out, get me some great distance, and that's what I did today. Just threw it with just maybe a hair bit of anhyzer to flat, and it was just able to power through, get me all the way down here right to the basket, around the trees as it tends to fade off to the right at the end. This is really a carving tool, the Halo Air. I love it, and sometimes, like in this case, it gets me some of my longest flights. Latitude 64 Halo Air. Now what does air mean? Well, it's like blizzard, basically. It means it has tiny air bubbles in it, and that tends to give the disc better glide and therefore more distance. So check out those Blizzard Champion discs and the air discs here. Very nice. And there you have it, Pohick Bay Disc Golf Course. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and also subscribe to me here on YouTube. Check out all of my other disc golf videos, also my Drivin Ivan car videos, documentaries, music videos, and my literal video for Chris Isaac's Wicked Game. I'm Ivan Katz.